Good morning, everybody. I got something really fun to talk about today. I don't know if it's fun. It's kind of you know hard, but it is still is fun for me because I like learning. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about the angry black woman today. Um, and I know everybody's heard that term before, and it's normally attached to women who seem angry in their communication style and in the way they project themselves and confront things in life and their behavior. I wanted to take a look at it though because I've actually been called an angry black woman. I don't think I'm angry at all. I think I'm outspoken. And sometimes people can misinterpret your intentions based off their perception of your behavior against their character. So a lot of times people will see what they are in you, but it is misinterpreted because it's not you, it's them. And that's their issue. Praise the Lord and have a good day. I don't like to really waste time on why people do things or say things to me anymore because there's nothing that I could do about it, even if I know, right? That's weird. But that's growth. That's growth. Uh, but today I want to talk about the angry black woman. This subject was generated for me because I looked over the span of 10 years uh, in my interactions with black leaders that were men, right? I'm going to do a whole separate video on black women. That's going to be, another one. So over a span of 10 years, I've noticed something very, very common. There's always friction. There's always, it doesn't matter who it's with or where they are, church, work, it doesn't matter. I noticed that eventually me being myself is a problem for black men. And the reason I know this is because it's my experience, right? So I haven't talked about this a whole lot because I've been trying to figure it out. I've been trying to figure out how to phrase it, how to put it together, right? My experiences. But I've been called an angry black woman. Here's the thing. I've looked to leaders if I value something in them. If I see something in them, I reach out. I'm like, hey, this is me. I'm Michelle. And I just want to, be your friend. I want to get to know you and I want to learn from you, right? That is my posture in front of every black male leader, period, male and female. So because I adore, I honor the expertise in people that are black. Like we have to normally, I think we have to work 50 times harder to accomplish any type of a significance in the world because we are black, because we're marginalized. So when I find leaders that are like, oh my gosh, this person is awesome, I'm like, let's go, let's talk, let's be friends. All right, that's my heart, that's my true heart. And that happened to me this week. I was talking to a pastor that I met through somebody on Facebook. I enjoyed one of her videos, and I was like, "Oh my God, we have to be friends, right? That's me." Oh my gosh, I'm just real open like that, especially when I see something that I'm passionate about, that another person is passionate about as well. So I began to talk to this preacher, and I was like, "Hey, he was a pastor and everything," and I was like, so and so give me your information. I'm just reaching out," and she said that you helped her with some the understanding of spiritual things, like, spiritual warfare. I'm very, very interested in that because I think that it is the most under-discussed topic in spirituality. Some people believe that there's an impact spiritually on you in a negative way, and it's called like a demonic attack. Some people don't. Some people believe it's perception, trauma, and unhealed experiences that create those types of mentalities that have demonic characteristics. So this guy was like, oh my God, finally somebody who can help me. Yes. Right. So I reached out to him. I started talking to him and I was like, yeah, I think I'm being attacked. I think I'm being cursed. And I've been asking people about this. And some people were like, no, you can't be cursed. Yes, you can be cursed. So I'm trying to really understand it in my prayer. I asked God to send me to the right people. But tell me how God can send you to the right person, but the person's not ready for you. I have seen that so many times. And me, my cutoff ratio game is serious. I'm like, oop, if it ain't working, if it don't click, if it don't connect, I don't waste time there. Because that's just in my experience, when I did waste time, when I did stay there and I was loyal to a dead situation, I wasted, it was terrible. So it had a negative impact on me. So I began to ask questions, right? And this dude was like, well, you need to pray more. Yep, got that. I do need to pray more. I need to up my prayer game. And every morning I wake up since he's told me that. And I've asked God, I said, God, give me a praying spirit. Give me a thirst, an obsession with prayer, right? Because when you pray, it's the highest form of intimacy with God that I think we could have. But anyway, so I took that. And then he was like, well, you need to come to church and learn about it. Nope, absolutely not. Michelle's not going to church right now. Why? Because I've had so many terrible experiences within the past 10 years. Woo! The book is coming. I haven't finished it. It's halfway done, but it's coming. It's called The Uninvited. But I don't know where I get these titles from. Anyway, so I told him, I was like, yes, I have the gift of prophecy and everything, but I don't understand certain things about spiritual warfare. So that's one thing that I asked him about, right? One thing. You know what this dude told me? He was like, well, you need training. You need to be taught. And right then and there, I understood who he was because I had been introduced to him, preachers like him over the past 10 years who've looked at me and who've not taken the opportunity to get to know me and actually not to have the honest spirit of discernment. Because a lot of preachers nowadays, what they do is they discern what they need in other people. Right? So they feed that person validation over and over and over again to make them feel that God is in their connection, when in actuality, they have a gift and they're prostituting the Spirit of God. Right? So, take a moment with that. It's several, and I've seen it. I've seen it since I was a child in church. There's so many preachers that use other people's gifts to facilitate and progress their initiatives. And it has nothing to do with God. It just has everything to do with business. Now, if you want a church, have a church. If you want a business, have a business. They're not the same. They shouldn't be the same. But especially when it comes to exploiting the people of God. But anyway, so I noticed that similarity and he triggered it for me. I was like, there's something wrong with this, because in my conversation, I was totally upfront and honest about who I was. That's who I am, period. This person has the same response to me that all the rest of these preachers have had. Michelle, you need training. You need to be under someone. You need to be covered by someone, right? But they don't get a chance to know me. They don't ask me questions. They don't sit down and ask me what training I've already had, right? So I'm already turned off. And I was like, yeah, I can appreciate you telling me that, I need training. Yes, I do in certain areas. But do you know me? You ain't asking me no questions. And if you're discerning correctly, you would understand my experiences that have given me the training that I need. And the thing is that a lot of times people, and I told him this, I was like, people in the church, and this is why the church will die eventually. The reason why people are not growing in the church and the church is not growing, because of one reason. Every preacher thinks that you're supposed to go through the same process that they went through. I am not you. We don't have the same experiences. There is a natural evolution in the spirit that happens when there is a unilateral connection with God, where it's one-on-one, person to God, right? I don't have to walk through your journey to reach my purpose. There is no way that is possible. Any pioneer, any person that has created change or revolution in the earth has actually done things differently. So why do I need to be trained by you? Sir, no, sit down. Here's the thing. That's how they grew up. That's how they were raised in the church. So that's the only way that they need to duplicate that actual validation. But heavens validated me. So that's another YouTube as well. But here's the thing that I found. I was like, God, please show me if it's me. Please show me if it's me that has this conflict inside of me. And if it's me projecting something that creates such disrespect and a spiritual assault from these black preachers that are gay out here in this area. And not just the gay ones, the straight ones too. Ooh, they're even worse. That's a whole nother YouTube as well. But here's the thing God revealed to me. He said, Michelle, he said, listen, it's not their fault. And I'm like, here we go with that again. God, I am like totally on fire about something. And I'm ready to pray around myself to keep me from any type of person like that. I don't want that connection. I don't want that. If I have to do what you do to actually fulfill my purpose, then that's not my purpose. It's your purpose. And me knowing this and having this mentality in conversations with people like this, with men like this, it creates the most tension that I have ever experienced. So here's what God told me. He said, Michelle, he said, the way they perceive you is the curse that's on the black man. He said, the way that they understand you, the way they hear you, the way they treat you, the way they respond to you, it is the identification of the curse in the black man's blood. And I'm like, that's uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about that. What are we saying, God? And he said, go back to slavery. He said, when black men were watching the slave masters, the slave owners, interact with black women, they were learning. Whew, I said, no, they were learning. And the thing is that I had heard about it before, but I didn't really research it. I didn't really sit down and say, okay, how were black women treated in slavery? I've seen certain, certain documentaries about it, but I never really connected it. And slavery from 1619 to 1865 was the space where slave owners would use black women for experiments. They had non-consensual gynecological and reproductive surgeries performed at times repeatedly on female slaves without anesthesia, including cesarean sections and ovariotomy, to perfect medical procedures. So black women in slavery between 1619 and 1865 were used as experimental objects to perfect medicine. Right. So, yeah. They were being raped. They were aborting the pregnancies that the slave owners actually, that the slave owners' rape caused. And they were labeled as hypersexual beings, right? So throughout time, let's go down to the civil rights, non-consensual medical experiments were still happening. Compulsory sterilization effects of Tuskegee untreated syphilis study on women in unequal healthcare services. This is an article that I found online. It's called Racism, African American Women and Their Sexual and Reproductive Health, a review of historical and contemporary evidence and implications for health equity. Cynthia Prather is the author of this, but I was astounded by the consistency of discrimination just even in the health system. So that was generated by the idea that black women were supposed to just be barefoot and pregnant. That is an actual phrase. Black men, either gay or straight, still look at black women, especially having that contention with more masculine black women. They're just meant to be the servants. They're not meant to be leaders, right? So black men currently see black women in the lens of the white slave master. And they continue to be seen as this person to the family who's supposed to cook, clean, work, raise the kids, and treat their husband like a king slave master. Ooh. a king slave master, right? So if this is in their blood, if this is what they're being taught, if this is a curse that has translated throughout time until and to be interpreted today through these connections, of course they're going to label an outspoken African American woman as angry because they can't listen to her. Black men don't listen to black women. Not that I've seen, right? It's just a matter of connecting the dots. I've seen it in growing up, women weren't allowed to go to college if they had children, and they had their first obligation was to the child, to the home, and to the husband, and to God, right? And God was first, and God wanted that. There was no educational progress, I don't think, until probably, maybe 20 years ago, even if that women were starting to actually, be seen and heard for their educational achievements. And in the black church, women aren't even allowed to lead. They're not allowed to be pastors. And if they are pastors, they're looked at as, well, a woman can't lead a man, right? I had a family member tell me one time when I was a little girl. He said, my father-in-law told me that if I needed to beat my wife to keep her in line, then I could do that. He gave me permission to beat my wife. And when I heard that, even when I was younger, I was like, what? But that's the culture. That's what's in their blood. That's what's in their spirits. That's what's been duplicated over time. Black women, they're just not seen or heard in the black community. And let's talk about the healthcare system again. Black mothers whose maternal mortality rate, it remains a staggering 3.5 times higher than that of their white counterparts. We're still given terrible health care when it comes to reproduction, right? That's crazy. That's insane to me. And the issue, that's what Deirdre Cooper was talking about in her article about black women. Black women were described as hypersexual, lascivious. They don't experience pain, and black women were immodest. This would cause the slave owners to morally be able to fix and to examine and to cure the black woman. They were put out into the fields to just make babies because the slave owners just needed them to reproduce so they can continue their production. And it makes total sense because the black church sees black women in the same way. They can't wear, I grew up in a church where you couldn't wear long sleeves. You couldn't wear skirts that were above your knees. That's still inappropriate in corporate America, wearing skirts above your knees. Any type of sexual presentation from women is considered immodest, right? It's just, and it shows also in our media. Look at Color Purple. Sophia had to serve a white woman because she stood up for herself. I've been fighting all my life, right? So now it's like, why haven't we made the connection? And it was so clear. I was reading an article by Annie Nakao, Chronicle for the Chronicle staff, right? She explained the actual slavery's anti-literacy laws. And if people don't know your story, then they can continue to dehumanize your experience, right? So there was no evidence of this. There was no track record. And that's why slaves were not allowed to learn how to read and write. But it's amazing how all of this treatment of black women matriculated over time. It's not a myth. It's actually real. The central to the system of oppression that was received for sexual availability of black women that even today fosters stereotypes and assumptions about their sexuality, says Ania. I'm sorry, Annie Nakeo. It's the same now. Black women are objectified in videos. We're called bitches. We're called whores. We're called sluts. Right? We're just, there's so many discriminatory instances that are happening to the black women in our community. I mean, the whole myth that black women's sexuality and availability and compliance is ingrained into the culture. So we're supposed to be available. We're supposed to be compliant with everything. We're supposed to be seen and not heard in the black community, right? I mean, look at Halle Berry. When she won an Oscar, she was the first black woman to win an Oscar, but it was for Monsters Ball. And it was because of that sex scene. That's still objectifying. And what about Janet Jackson when she was at the Super Bowl and showed her boob? Any type of sexual freedom or liberation that women project in society is going to be seen as immoral. It's so crazy. And my last point is this. How does that translate for me as a lesbian? I never expected to be treated this way by black gay men. Number one, because they're black and gay. But that doesn't promise, or it does not mean that you're going to be treated equally, especially when there's a curse in the bloodline like that. Like black, I think, and I've had this experience, I think because I am so outspoken, and I think that women still are not as outspoken as they need to be because they can be labeled as angry if they have a voice at all. I think that black Christian gay men are threatened by strong lesbian energy because they aren't aware of their bias that was ingrained in them for hundreds of years. When I was growing up, I was taught that I was supposed to serve a man, that I was supposed to go get him water or take off his socks when he came home from work. That's what I was taught. And because I was a total opposite of that, it's so funny. My mother wrote a letter to my father at his funeral. And there was a line in there that connected so many dots for me. She said, "You loved your children even though you didn't understand them." What? That was a gut punch for me, especially in front of all those people. It was a gut punch for me. But because I don't respond the way the black man has been taught a woman should respond through slave masters, because I'm outspoken, because I don't follow just because I'm told to follow. I follow truth. I follow peace. I follow progress. Right? It is challenging to be a masculine, a masculine presenting female lesbian, even in the gay black church, because I don't ascribe to what I'm supposed to be and what they're taught that I'm supposed to be. So of course they want me to be silent. Of course they want me to be quiet. Of course they want to tell me that I need to be trained. I'm not a dog. What? Like, I really, seriously, like, all the hood that I have, which is very little, almost came out. Like, what are you saying, sir? You don't know me? But it's unfortunate because we do, as lesbians, as masculine presenting lesbians, we need all the men, all the black men in our lives to have relationships with them, to have cohesion and to build strength and to have alliance with black men in our community. But straight men, whoo, let me tell you, that's some of the worst treatment that I think black lesbian women can ever experience in society, because it's from your brothers, it's from your cousins, uncles, dads, it's from your gay male friends who have a religious background. Not all gay men are like that. Mostly, I like to hang out with heathen gay men because they're the best. And I'm saying heathen because my mom says that I'm a heathen because I don't go to church, whatever. But straight men, it's even worse. Here's the thing: I've had a black man ask me. He was cutting my hair. He was like, "How much of a man? How do you how much of a man do you feel like you are while you're on your period? You feel like a man then, Michelle?" I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, why are we having this conversation? My period, sir, is none of your business, right? Number two, the audacity of you to cross a line. That to me was assault. That was vernacular assault. And the thing is that he probably will never, ever think of it that way. He's just being a man. My dad even told me one time when I had a family member who was just terrible to me and my wife. He was like, "Oh, Michelle, he's just homophobic. That's no big deal." What? Are you kidding me? So that's why I just disappear on people because their logic, there's nothing I can do about their logic, but I can protect my space. And here's the thing. I even had a cousin say, "Michelle, as a lesbian, while you're having sex with a woman from the back, can you feel the fatty part underneath her butt?" I was like, what? Some of the things that I've been told and asked by black men are astounding. And when I put it together, that the friction that I've had with men, period, black men, is because I am masculine presenting. It's because I am the total opposite of what they've been taught that I should be. So it bothers them, especially in the church, because I don't care what nobody say. God has anointed me to talk. He has anointed me to speak to things in people and places and environments and cultures to break the social inequity and the biased norms. I know that I'm called to do that, but I'm not going to be in the church. I'm not. It's not going to happen there. So the ignorance, in my opinion, is not intentional. No, it's unfortunate because there are so many relationships that I wish I could have with some of the black men that I've encountered, especially in church, because I have such a deep connection to my traditional roots. And that connection often generates new revelation because I am experiencing that tradition in a different way in this time, in context right now. So having my brothers, right? Having those guys that, that have been where I've been and have gone where I've gone and understand the church like I do because they've, experienced similar things I can't even connect with because they don't see me as valid. They don't see my gifts or my anointing as something that could be substantial or even effective because of the curse in their blood. Like we as masculine presenting lesbians need to be protected from societal assaults. We don't need to be assaulted by our brothers spiritually, emotionally, mentally. It's a lot. We need that love and support, not fighting and contention and jealousy and slandering. I'm like, what? Like, seriously, is nobody talking about this? Is nobody having a conversation to why